According to a media report, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak supports new plans for oil and gas production off the coast of Great Britain. I think there's absolutely no point in the way the Labour Party is proposing to ban oil and gas from the North Sea, is what Sunak said in an interview with a conservative Sunday Telegraph newspaper published on Saturday, referring to the bodies of water off the east coast of Britain. This will only weaken our energy security and strengthen the power of dictators like President Vladimir Putin, is what Sunak said. And according to Sunak, stopping the extraction of fossil fuels would endanger 200,000 jobs in about 30 sectors and deprive the state of tens of billions in taxpayers' money. Any sane person recognizes that we need fossil fuels as part of the transition to climate neutrality, said the British Prime Minister. Sunak and some British ministers have indicated in the past few days that they want to relax British climate and environmental targets and exploit the resources in the North Sea. In doing so, they antagonize climate activists and civil society groups. The Conservative Tories have been in power in Britain for 13 years, but have lost support after various scandals and changes in leadership. In recent polls, they trail Labour by a wide margin. Sunak's efforts to turn the tide have so far been hampered by persistently high inflation, mass strikes against the country's ailing healthcare system, and high cost of living. According to surveys, 2/3 of Britons have a negative attitude towards the current Prime Minister. The UK aimed to be carbon neutral by 2050. Apparently, London is primarily focusing on the storage of carbon dioxide now. And critics believe that greater cuts in emissions are more effective, but Prime Minister Sunak is reportedly planning exactly the opposite. And according to a report, the British government wants to invest heavily in the storage of climate-damaging carbon dioxide. As the Sunday Times newspaper reported, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will travel to Aberdeen in Scotland on today when I'm filming this to announce the government's support for the Acorn project. It's planned that future emissions from all over the country will be stored in underground storage facilities under the North Sea off the Scottish coast. And technology plays a big part in Britain's plans to become carbon neutral by 2050. Critics, on the other hand, advocate focusing more on reducing emissions. However, Sunak, as I said, whose Conservative Party trails the Labour Party in the polls, is reportedly flirting with softening climate targets. He emphasized that he wanted to stick to the goal of climate neutrality by 2050, but in a pragmatic and proportionate way, as he puts it. Former Brexit Minister David Frost recently called for the previous deadlines, such as the end for new cars with combustion engines by 2030, to be reconsidered. Voices in the ruling party calling for a move away from green climate policy were boosted by the result of the by-election result in former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's West London constituency. The Tory candidate was recently able to prevail there, also because he spoke out against the extension of the environmental zone ULEZ, that's the ultra-low emission charge, to the outskirts of the city announced by Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan. And that went down well with the voters, although that whole thing was invented by Boris Johnson. The government is also expected to soon give the go-ahead for the development of those new oil fields in the North Sea, which they hope will increase its energy security. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg demonstrated in front of the Energy Ministry in London on Saturday against the exploitation of the Rosebank oil field. Yeah, Greta Thunberg, that's a different topic as well. But nevertheless, if you want to know more about British politics or Brexit, the next video is right here on the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.